So today we are riding the MV Agusta Tourismo Veloce. Yeah, so we are riding the Turismo Veloce 800 Lusso SCS, and that little puppy is the key to the secret. Surprised I said, I managed to say the whole name in its entirety. So this is it, the MV factory. It's where the art's created. Grazie a tutti. And we're very lucky, I didn't mean to say that actually, we are extremely fortunate to have Marco Lucky Lucanelli, absolute legend of the racing world. So as I said, the clutch is the big thing. As you'll notice, if you keep looking at my left hand, we don't have the need to touch the clutch at all. It's not automatic, because that's the wrong word. It's not an overly complicated unit with lots of parts, and basically what MV have done is use a recluse clutch, which has been used in motocross for years and years and years and years, for kids who they're moving up from 50s to 65s or 60s, and they want to have the benefits of all the 65 power, but can't get used to clutches, and it just makes the lever redundant, absolutely redundant. And of course you've got the blip and the quick shifter, so you don't literally, I mean, even when you're in neutral, when you pull away, you don't have to touch the clutch lever. You just press down. Normally you feel a little bit of a creep forward, so that's why you have to have your finger on your front brake. But it's crazy, you know. I mean, like I said, this technology has been used in motocross for years, and now MV, or a manufacturer, has suddenly gone ding, this will be good on big bikes. But of course it's not just a case of whacking in a recluse clutch, and letting it sort it out. There's lots of electronic intervention and safety measures and everything else that has to go along with a big 110 horsepower bike. So we're in Varese, like I said, home of MV Agusta, and I think like a lot of MV's bikes recently, they're launched at the factory, so you know it's a bit of a cost saving measure, I'm sure, but it's also nice to go to a factory. It's nice and personal, see where all the magic's made. Let's just remind ourselves of the basics. So this is obviously an all-new bike it's a heavily revised bike for 2018/19. 110 horsepower triple, 800, and obviously that 800 engine is the platform for many of MV's bikes. It's also MV reckons that you get 90% of its torque at 3,000 RPM, and given the sort of linearity and the smoothness of the motor, it is super smooth now. I mean, if you've ridden an MV even 2 years ago, I do forgive you for being put off sort of snatchy ride-by-wire, and I guess, you know, by MV's own admission, being pioneers for ride-by-wire all those years ago, you know, it's not always best to be pioneers. Put it like that. They had lots of issues, which they fixed along the line, rather than recalling bikes or shouting about it. They just sort of refined it over the years. But I'm in sport mode now, which is obviously the sportiest. The throttle response is definitely a bit fruitier, a bit more direct, but it's so nice compared to, you know, 5, even 2 years ago. Bikes have, well, you know, it's a constant evolution. And there's lots of sort of fail-safe measures. For example, if I put it in third, I'm at a standstill. So you stop, don't need to touch the clutch. You stop, and you pull away. You give it a gas, and it's going no, 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 no. Rather than slipping the clutch to beyond buggery, it limits the torque. The electronics limit the torque, so it encourages you to downshift, and you know, therefore don't. You know, basically, it's a fail-safe measure, safety and to help with clutch wear. Obviously, it's not just the clutch. There are some other bits and bobs. There are new engine tweaks. We've got a new chassis, or slight tweaks to rigidity, just to help the bike from just to help the bikes from one side to the other. There was a bit of flex, so a bit of chassis flex, so they dialed that out apparently. The suspension, we've got semi-active sack suspension. Oh, it's bloody hot, I'll tell you that. It's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes. I am getting so hot, I want to take my clothes off. I've got to say, it's very easy to ride. I mean, I've obviously ridden the DCT and the CVT, the Aprilia Mana. It's quite intuitive, you know. I thought there'd be a bit more clutch slipping and going for the clutch, just because you're used to it, just because that's what 30 years of riding bikes has told you to do. I want to go back into touring mode, which you can do on the fly. You don't have to clutch the throttle or anything like that. Just do it by pressing the starter button, toggle through. Dash is quite busy. I think it's probably a little bit too busy for my liking, but when you turn it on and off, it's off then on. There's a nice little feature I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, full colour TFT. MV didn't want to create a bike and just another touring bike that would rival a GS or a Super Adventure S, or, you know, adventure-y bikes. This is just MV's take on a bit more comfort and a bit more touring ability. It's not, you know, you can't put it in a, I suppose it's a Super Duke GT in many ways, but the GT trounces it in the trouser department. But it's still very sporty. You know, it's, you got the 800 motor and the sort of racy naked geometry, which has obviously been slightly more relaxed than the Bretale. It's going to be a bit naughty and a bit sporty, isn't it? So you've got 30 litres each side. Those integrated panniers, they are really nice. When you take them off, it doesn't look like the bike needs panniers. You know, you have lots of touring bikes that come with them as standard, or when a touring bike looks like it needs panniers, and they're sort of shitty subframe, separate subframe for the panniers to go on. There's none of that. And of course there's the clutch lever there, just in case you want to do burnouts or wheelies or anything slightly naughty. And that is exactly the reason why MV have left it there. So if you're not au fait with the MV Agusta 800 triple motor, it's unlike anything else because of the counter-rotating crank. It sounds naughty. It sounds a little bit raspy. And it's more violent, it's more urgent than the other triples, well, the Triumph for example. Yeah, obviously this state of tune, it's slightly more bottom-endy. Is that a phrase I can use? Bottom-endy and more mid-range. Oh. So when you want to stop on a hill, obviously, even though you're in first gear, the clutch is putting it in neutral. So there's a lever down here, like a little foot brake, which you push down, and that's your sort of handbrake, if you like. And to release it again, you just push down on the rear brake lever. Job's a dream. Yeah, the bump management seems very nice. It's very plush. It's a bit top heavy compared to other MVs we've ridden, but It's gonna with the big tank and the panniers. It hides its weight well. It's very fluid. It feels like I could get my knee down right now. Feel like I want sliders, fam. You get me? You can dress it in all sorts of Turismo, touring accessories, but it's still, you still open the throttle, it's still very naughty. It's very, very naughty. It's a naughty little sausage. In terms of ergonomics, it's quite comfy, it's very relaxed, beautifully relaxed. Nice big wide bars. In fact, they're the widest part of the bike, so when you're filtering through traffic, as long as the mirrors make it, then you're safe to go through with panniers. There's not a lot of room to manoeuvre around, but I suppose you don't really need to. Nice little table for luncheon. You can put your meat platter and your seafood medley down here. Yeah. Feels nice and stable. I don't know whether that's a result of the clutch. There's some definite internal inertial feelings. I can't quite put my finger on it. It's yeah, it steers quick, but you can almost feel the gyro-ness. Yeah, and that's why I'm one of the top UK journos. Wow. Oh wow. Where's this? What a place to live. What a place. Just coming down from your townhouse onto the veranda. Get the boat out. Have a glass of wine. Enjoy life. I'd like to do that. The clutch lever is slightly heavier than normal. It's not overly heavy, but it's definitely a far cry from the usual MV light dusting action. And then when you ping it, it's like a strange sort of mechanical thing going on. But yeah, there's no issue so far. There's no sacrifice so far. It literally is the best of both worlds. Best of both worlds, mate, innit? And of course there is a stock bike, a standard bike without the SCS, the smart clutch system, just in case you want it. To be fair, I don't know why. I mean, it's probably, I don't know the exact price, and because there's no real MV UK entity at the moment. I don't know the UK price, and I'm not too sure on the price difference between the SCS and a stock bike, or the bike with a normal conventional clutch. So, but I'll find that out later on. Here we're testing the filtering skills. This is obviously another plus of the SCS is you don't need to touch the clutch. It's quite smooth, very smooth. There's no jerkiness. There's no compromise, I guess. It's all good, brother. It's all good. I like the rear light cluster. That's a sexy touch, that. It's the little things, isn't it? MV Agusta Tourismo Veloce 800 Lusso SCS. So that was for someone on Twitter that asked, I can't remember who it was, for me to say the bike's name in Italian style. You can tell Marco, look, you can tell he's a racer. He's left his indicators on. Pretty much the whole journey he's had his indicators on. I mean, we just stopped for a coffee then, and he's being bombarded with photos and people saying hello to him. And, you know, he's a proper legend. I mean, I think the youngsters among you will probably have no idea who he is, but trust me, that guy is, you know, he was the Italian Barry Sheen, I think it's safe to say. I think we're going to try the stop bike later on. It'll be interesting to see how different the gearbox is, because it's quite a heavy shift. There's nothing overly clunky or agricultural. It's just a heavier shift than normal. Like I say, load speed damping on this electronic suspension is really nice. You can barely feel this, the cobbled streets. The front end feels quite tight and compact. There's no sort of slackness in the chassis, if that makes sense. It is on the tall side, so the vertically challenged will struggle. I know little Carl from Fast Bikes, he's having an absolute mare. His little legs, bless him. It's quite a front end bias, or it feels like it's quite a front end bias, which obviously helps with steering and confidence in the front end. We just had a proper session on these roads for the cameras, and yeah, this baby likes to hustle. Feels really nice on the side of the tyre. I mean, it's no real shock, but it's very composed, plenty of mechanical grip. And even on these sort of like shitty surfaces, I was pegged down, and yeah, tasty. It's not as if you want more power. You know, it's exciting. It's an engaging ride when you open the throttle. The sound, the noise, the sort of celebration when you open the throttle. But it'd be interesting to see the F4 engine or 1000cc engine in this chassis, or in this bike. I think a lot of the more grown-up, mature riders want a bit more power. It's not a willy waving thing. They just like a bit of meat and veg, you know. But it's, you know, 110 horsepower doesn't sound a lot. It's not, but it's perfectly manageable. But it's still exciting enough for a lot of riders. Yeah, it feels quite unlike an MV in that it's not twitchy or nervous or overly stiff. It's one of the most, well, it is the most composed sure-footed MVs that I've ever ridden. I suppose you want that with a bit of touring. I'd be lying if I said I couldn't feel it working. You know, the sort of mechanical and electrical intervention working together. You know, you can feel the electronic clutch slip, if you like, which is the torque, the electronic torque settings working to limit the power, and of course the mechanical clutch slip. But it's not, you know, it's not weird, it's not idiosyncratic as such. And of course it's perfect for 0 to 60s, because you're at a light, put it in first gear, crack the throttle, an MV claim 3 seconds 0 to, or 3.1 0 to 60, which of course is on par with any superbike. So yeah, I don't know, I'm struggling to think of negatives. I'd be interested to see what other bikes this sort of technology makes its way onto. Not too sure on the red. I think I'd definitely have the white. I mean, MV somehow manages to pull off the Montego Countryman red in style. It's got some nice, you know, the gold bits and the matte and gloss mix is and some nice touches. Whereas I'd definitely have the white. All about the Blanco in it. So this is it. We're coming into MV Agusta HQ. It's got that rustic, historic Italia type vibe to it, which we'll see in a minute. Motorcycle art. And then we come around the corner here. We've got the Kajiva sign up here. This is, oh man, that is the definition of cool. Buongiorno! We're just outside the factory here in Varese, and I thought I'd give you a little front to back. It's just started raining pretty hard. It's thunder and lightning, which should have been a beautiful view. It's grim, it's spitting with rain, so I'll make it fairly brief. So yeah, front to back, we've got new wheels for the Turismo Veloce. Brembo brakes, nothing special, but they're perfectly adequate. Pirelli Scorpion Trail 2 tyres, which I thought were pretty good on the road, considering they're Scorpion trails. Yeah, moving up, we've got suspension, sash suspension, electronic suspension. So yes, switch gear. It's a bit sort of basic, and for a sort of lavish bike, that's one area I'd like to see a bit of an improvement on. But 21 litre tank. See, it's nice and wide. And the engine, so it's a revised engine, 110 horsepower, obviously retuned for the Turismo Veloce for more mid-range and stuff. We have new cylinder head, and it makes 90% of its power at 3,000 RPM, which is pretty decent. So this is the main piece, if you like, the SCS. Obviously a recluse clutch in a nice sort of perspex. Apparently it's really tough, this. Looks nice. Nice little touch, that. Again, Sachs shock on the back, preload adjuster there. New exhaust for emission and styling tweaks. We've got a centre stand there. Rubber pegs. And this is the handbrake system. So I know apologies, it's so dark, but I can't get it any lighter. So you put this down and then release it by the rear brake. Pretty simple but effective. Obviously the steel trellis frame. What else? And here, somewhere around here, this is where the rigidity changes have been made to the chassis to make it, or to stop the flex. Love the wheels. I think they look like TSW Venoms. I like them, very nice. The panniers, I will show you a bike without the panniers just to show how cool they look when they're off. You've got this nice little letterbox system here. Of course we've got blipper and shifter screen. Fairly simple. Yeah, I think that's your Turismo Veloce 800 Lusso SCS. Also, I can turn this on, but that, even with the panniers on, that's a sexy view. So it's almost a bit Panigale-like, but a bit, well, I think it's sexier than Panigale. That is a gorgeous bit of engineering, that. And also, something I forgot, this here is an all-new twist grip. So there's more mechanical changes to it, and it's so much nicer. I think that's partly responsible, obviously, with the ride-by-wire tweaks as well, and all the latest firmware updates. This is the key to a happy MV owner.